The meeting will now come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the recording secretary please call the roll?
Young.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
Fosdick.
Here.
Morrow.
Here.
Gearbox.
Here.
Cole. Absent. Beardsley.
Here.
Heft. Troika.
Here.
Staff present tonight include City Planner Auerbach, Community Development Director Harrington, and Recording Secretary Katnick. Staff Rep Cole is actually here at 7:01. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended or distributed?
I'll move the agenda amended. I'd like to put under discussion Huntington Woods and Pulte.
Okay.
Actually, I'd like to add a second item under discussion, Madam Chair. As I just mentioned, I want to talk about board and commission appointments.
Okay. All right. That was moved by Gearbox, second by Heft. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Is there a motion on the table to approve the meeting minutes of October 25th as submitted?
Move to approve as submitted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Public comment. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time and make comments. The person is requested but not required to state their name and address for the record. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Seeing no public comments, we'll move to the public hearing, number 23-27, 2023 Saline Master Plan Update, a motion to adopt and recommend adoption to the Saline City Council. We have a memo dated November 22nd from Community Development Director Harrington and a memo dated November 22nd, 2023 from City Planner Auerbach.
We have reached the end of the road, hopefully. So it is the City of Saline 2023 Master Plan Update. This is a very short presentation. I'm not going to go over any of the content, really. So we decided to update the plan in fall of 2022. We narrowed it down to 4 main topics of housing, downtown, transportation, environment, sustainability, resilience. We held 3 in-person engagement sessions, 2 last fall in 2022 and 1 this August. We crafted and administered an online survey for public input that received about 383 responses. We completed 2 supporting studies and allocated funding for another. We created a draft of the version of the plan in August and opened a 63-day period of public comment. We thoroughly reviewed the draft content with the Planning Commission and made requested revisions and edits. Additionally, we received public comments from the Washtenaw County Drain Commission that were incorporated into the plan. And then we created the final draft that is before you for adoption. Final should have an asterisk. So what's left to do? So it's final draft of the master plan on the Planning Commission's agenda for consideration for both adoption and then recommending adoption to the City Council. And then should you choose to do that this evening, December 18th, the City Council will meet, and provided the plan is supported by the Planning Commission, the City Council will vote to adopt or not adopt. There are a few very small, largely non-substantive changes that are outstanding items that CWA listed in their memo that we identified. So one is a map that just needs to be updated again to show that the depot property is public. There was a request for red line maps, which I think the City Council would like to see too, but I have them on the slides here tonight as well, just to make sure that we have that. And I think going forward, it should be interesting to future planners of the city to know what was changed, when it was changed. I think it's just a cool document to keep on file. So again, the plan layout for the public's benefit, we had a summary of background studies, demographic data, followed by goals and policies, future land use, implementation, and then there's appendix sections which include pretty depthful analysis of the survey results as well as the verbatim items that we received at those engagement sessions that I listed off. So all 4 of those items that are highlighted were sections that we went and specifically discussed as a group over the last couple of months, even before that. So there's a brief summary of the changes. These are the sub-area maps that we talked about. Again, I know the gold is a little bit difficult to see, but as you'll see in the north side of the city, Bella Terrace has been annexed in, so it's reflected on new maps. And then we divided the sub-areas from, it used to be downtown, to now East Michigan, West Michigan, and downtown. So we have distinct sub-areas as we went over in September. And then this is really difficult to see. I know there's the future land use map. So these are just circling of the changes that were made. Many of these items were typos from the 2017 that were cleaned up. Again, you can see Bella Terrace in the north that was added. Maple Cove was changed to reflect that it's residential and no longer industrial. There were some items on the East Michigan Ave that were improperly coded in that map that we updated. Same thing with the item on West Michigan Ave, and then the hospital campus, and then the office service on Ann Arbor Street that we've talked about and then subsequently have done a rezoning with. So to go over the large bird's eye view of changes from 2017 to 2023, we revised future land use designation for select properties. We revised those sub-area classifications. There was an emphasis on building new types of housing to diversify the housing market in Saline, and we switched to a form-based language for our residential areas in our master plan. There were calls to reevaluate residential lot standards, SPA 1 standards, and improving environmental protections, such as creating ordinances for wetlands, woodlands, groundwater, surface water, et cetera, as well as some other items that you'll see throughout the plan and in the implementation plan for the public's benefit. There's an emphasis on creating a safer, more pedestrian-friendly transportation network found throughout the plan. And then the biggest change, I would say, is the switch to a more robust implementation plan guide from that 2017 plan. I've said it plenty of times, but it used to be 2 pages, and it's well over 10 now. So, or it might have been condensed with Mike's clever formatting. So our recommendation is to adopt the 2023 Saline Master Plan and to recommend to the Saline City Council they adopt the 2023 Saline Master Plan.
Great, thank you. Mr. Auerbach, do you have anything to add?
Nothing further, just that under the Planning Enabling Act procedure, this is something, a decision that the commission will need to make by resolution, and if you do recommend to council, it requires 2/3 of the membership in the affirmative.
Great, thank you. Any discussion? Yes.
Just a few things. Could you explain more, Mr. Harrington, regarding the Washtenaw County's Drain Commission's request that we take something out of implementation and put it back?
Yeah, so those were specifically looking at the goals and policies under the environmental section. The items related to wetland, woodland, ground, and surface water, we had condensed to say, consider wetland when doing new development. And then Mr. Rubel had previously written kind of long prose about how that should exactly be considered. And we moved that to the implementation section because fundamentally that's how you're implementing that. But after talking to Carlisle Wortman, as well as the Drain Commission, they made a good case that having it in the goal and policy makes it unambiguously clear that this is the city's standard for consideration. So in the interim period of us adopting a formal ordinance for wetland, which is something that we should likely be doing in the 21st century, groundwater, et cetera, that these would be additional protections that we can invoke in the case that we find a developer or proposal really would be a hindrance to a wetland or potentially harm a woodland or otherwise affect our surface or groundwater. So it's just more of a semantic change than anything else. It's not substantive, but I think it does provide the city better protection and more evidence of content we can point to if we're rejecting a proposal.
Did the county provide any other change? You said no substantive changes, but was there anything that they would have recommended differently there?
It's not really their place, I would say. That they didn't. I actually talked to the Drain Commissioner on a phone too after he had sent in the letter. So there were a lot of other minor tweaks or here's a typo we found kind of things. I was appreciative that they took the time to read the plan. So I'd be happy to share that letter. But I think going forward, it's the Drain Commission would encourage us to adopt more robust ordinances as it relates, especially to stormwater.
Perfect. Okay. Were there any comments from any of the townships?
I didn't receive any comments from townships. I believe you spoke with one of the townships, but I don't know if that was on a different matter or not.
The Saline Township Planning Commission received the notice that the plan was distributed. They briefly discussed the urban development area language, but since that was largely unchanged, they didn't have any formal comments in reply.
And the diagram that's included for future land use properly reflects that entire urban development area?
Yes, everything outside the city boundaries is unchanged from the previous plan.
Figure 5, which has some, has the idea of future land uses, there's still some mistakes on there that we'll need to fix. City Depot isn't reflected. It might be the size of the document itself, but there's like that, and the 5th corner shows up as public property, even though it's a church, but we don't show all the churches uptown as being semi-public. A couple of those things that we may need to look and review.
Absolutely. If you want to meet with me, it's just easier to kind of list these out. Yeah, ARC is kind of a fun software to play with. So.
No problem, and I know how small that is. And then lastly, the change, because I know that was part of a email that came to us all regarding the transportation aspects. When you say in here it's less, we were more car-centric at one point, now we're more non-motorized transit. Do we effectively emphasize the need to get traffic through the city in terms of finding ways and other roads to support, not just non-motorized? I'm talking about actual traffic.
I guess that we have a thoroughfare plan too that we left largely unchanged. In fact, it might have been entirely unchanged from 2017 that I would have to review to answer that question more thoroughly. In general, though, I do think the plan calls for the orderly use of traffic, whether that be in the residential development goals or, looking at different land uses to ensure that, new development is not putting an inordinate strain on traffic wherever development occurs.
For me, I feel like new development, but it's the existing that we can't get through, and even the traffic that comes into those communities. So I want to make sure that we somehow emphasize that the regional planning of traffic needs to be a part of this whole plan.
Oh, okay, yeah, so the regional planning of transportation is definitely noted with partnerships with both Watts and SEMCOG in that specific intergovernmental communication section.
Okay. Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? If there are no additional questions or comments, is there a motion on the table to acknowledge the receipt?
I'll move to acknowledge receipt of the two memos.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Is there a motion on the table to open the public hearing at 7:11?
Move to open at 7:11.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. All public comments will be heard with a limit of 3 minutes per person.
Hi, Ben Goodman. I work for the schools, and my kids go to schools in Saline. When I attended both master plan meetings that we held last year, I believe in November and then earlier this year, one of the things I spoke about was handicap accessible playground equipment, and I don't see that addressed anywhere in the master plan near parks or anything like that. Is that in there, Ben?
So it's going to be in the Parks Master Plan, so that's one confusion point.
Okay, thank you. The second question I have is related to the new home developments. Earlier, we passed that new home development on Maple Road, and they're not putting a sidewalk in that's connecting it to Woodland. I spoke about it at the different planning commission meetings as well as city council, and I'm still ticked off about that because, we always talk about when we put in new developments, they're required to put in a sidewalk. Well, when that opens up, you're going to be forcing kids that have to walk to the middle school or Woodland or Heritage to cross Maple Road, head south, cross Woodland, and then come back over to get to the schools. And so it's dangerous. I'm still angry the development didn't cave in and just do the right thing. We really need to address that moving forward, and that should be included in the plan that all new developments will be required to build sidewalks. End of story. It's for the safety of our children. It's for the safety of pedestrians that use the sidewalks, and it's just not safe. And we wonder why people come here angry about the whole Maple Road construction project right now. It's because people almost got hit. We heard one of our community members with a disability talk about how he almost got hit using a crosswalk and the car wouldn't slow down. So it's really important that we do that, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
With no additional citizen comments, Madam Chair, I move to close the public hearing at 7:13.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Any additional questions and comments from the Planning Commission members?
I'd be happy to address that public comment too about sidewalks. So we did change the language to be more affirmative. So not only is it non-motorized connectivity constantly encouraged throughout the plan, but in that form-based language that we created for all of our residential districts, new developments shall have sidewalks connecting all homes and new developments. Sidewalk infill and existing developments should be done when feasible. Sidewalks or non-motorized trails from new developments should connect to the city's existing non-motorized networks. Walkability and non-motorized connections within neighborhoods into other neighborhoods and other service areas are important to maintain neighborhood character, to access daily needs and services. But we use the word shall. It's a requirement. It's not an option. So, and I believe that's also part of our site plan and PUD review standards now as well.
Between the master plan and the non-motorized plan, I think there's more than enough basis for a more specific ordinance update later on for sidewalk requirements.
Thank you, and I appreciate you commenting on that and, ensuring that it was included in the master plan and the language going forward. Thank you. Questions, comments? Is there a motion on the table to approve, not approve, recommend the adoption of the 2023 Saline Master Plan to Saline City Council with the inclusion of any final request from staff?
I move we approve.
I will second that. Additional discussion? Did I miss something?
I understand we have to do a resolution, and I assume we have to poll if we have to have two-thirds?
Yes.
Okay.
Danica, do you have a copy of that resolution?
We do.
The motion should make reference to the resolution.
Right, so I think there should have been two motions. So one motion to approve the resolution and then one motion to recommend. That was my oversight.
You could combine it into one.
Oh, okay.
You move to approve the recommendation for the adoption of the 2023 Master Plan of Saline City Council and to approve the enclosed resolution.
2423-XX.
Perfect. If Carol's willing to make that motion and you're willing to second.
Are you willing to make with that change?
Yes.
And I'm good to second that.
Oh, the city clerk sets the resolution. Oh, okay. So, resolution number to be determined by Clerk Royal.
3-XX.
Can't use just 2327 as part of this. It's all part of the same.
The enclosed resolution is
Yeah.
sufficient.
Okay,
And then we can have Clerk Royal number it.
okay.
And because a two-thirds vote is required, the clerk should call the roll on this vote.
My last comment, thank you so much for all of the work that you've done with this master plan. It looks spectacular, and I hope that this does go to City Council to be approved.
Appreciate that.
Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Beardsley?
Yes.
Carroll?
Yes.
Cole? Yes. Fosdick?
Yes.
Bearbaugh?
Yes.
Hef? Morrow?
Yes.
Troika?
Yes.
Young?
Yes. Motion passes to approve and with the enclosed resolution. New business items, 23-28, 2024 meeting dates. We received a Saline City Council planning meeting dates for 2024, second and fourth Wednesday of the month, with the exception of November and December. Is there anything else you would like to add, Mr. Harrington?
I have nothing to add to that. We're going to be more clear with our applicants about the scheduling deadlines now. So when you apply in this window, we'll get you on this meeting kind of thing. It's just going to make it a little bit easier going forward.
I'll move to approve the meeting dates for 2024.
Second.
Additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. We have two discussion items that were added to the agenda. Mr. Gerba, about Huntington Woods.
Yeah, today, council and the city manager received a concern about plowing of the roads in Huntington Woods. And it relates back to the acceptance of those streets and such, and, you know, making sure that whatever Pulte is responsible for, to make sure it's completed. It raises a concern that we had a similar problem with Maple Oaks and following their checklists and such. Do we, as a body, need to develop more policies or aspects that would help resolve this? Because I look at this right now as that if we have a problem on one side, yet Pulte's doing work on the other side of our city, those should be tied together, that you aren't going to get one without completing the other. And I don't know what we need to do in that.
I'm not exactly sure how that utility acceptance works, even if it is the same developer. I can say that City Engineer Humphreys has been working on new engineering review standards, design standards, whatever the proper term for that is. And as an aspect of that, we're instituting a new construction review process. So that's the city charging the developer to have someone watch them put in the utility, essentially to make sure that they're doing what they said they were going to do in the manner that they said they were going to do it, whether that's the way that they build the road and the different layers that they have to do for that to make sure that they are not the science behind it is beyond me. Chair Young might be better at explaining it, but essentially looking at that, the size of the pipe, the quality of the material, et cetera, that's all happening through the engineering department going forward. So I think we'll have much better protections to ensure that these issues don't continue to happen, and it costs staff more time, and it comes down to legal issues as well. So.
Okay, because those will be things that will come to us, or is it something that staff adopts and then?
The engineering review will come to City Council. So that's coming in December, I believe. And then the process would be they receive approval from you all. Conditional add is that they go through the construction review process. That will be a new condition we put on. And then they'll go through the construction review process that will monitor the installation and construction of those utilities.
Do you feel it would be worthwhile to have it come through planning to be looked at, just because we do have some expertise on this planning?
I'd have to discuss that with the engineer. I mean, some of this stuff is really nitpicky. I mean, it's like how your wayfinding signage or your street signage should look and the font that's used and the size of that sign. So there are aspects of it that are very, very minutia, but then there are other things that might be of interest to you. So I can ask Engineer Humphreys, especially if it's adopted to bring it forward and talk about what's really in it and what it means for us all tangibly.
Okay. It just would be helpful, because I know right now we're basically in a lawsuit with one of the developers trying to get that done. So if that's what we have to resolve these issues, we're behind the house, we're behind the cart. So whatever we can do, we want to help you out on that.
Right. I think all the city staff feels the same way, so we're attempting to rectify some of those issues.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Morrow?
Those of you whose terms are expiring on the Planning Commission will be receiving an email from either my office or our PR generalist within the next 2 weeks to confirm whether you want to seek reappointment, and then to have you complete a form. And as you may recall, last year, City Council implemented a mandatory background check, which is very basic for all of our board, commission, and committee appointees. I would note that Commissioner Beardsley is leaving us after, is it 17 years on the Planning Commission?
14.
14, okay, excuse me. That's a long time, nevertheless, and we greatly appreciate your service, Bill. I did speak to the Community Development Director earlier today, and it doesn't look like we're going to be having a meeting on December the 13th, so this will likely be your last meeting. We wish you well. City Council in my office will have a special tribute to present to you at our council meeting on the 18th, if you're available. We can follow up with you. I don't need a confirmation tonight, and if you're not, we can certainly get you the plaque of recognition for your years of service, not only on planning, but also on code review for 10 years, and as the planning commission representative, to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And if I'm not mistaken, my predecessor, Mayor Driscoll, had you on EDC, TIFA, and LDFA many years ago as well.
Before that, yeah.
So you've served this community in a number of ways over the course of several decades, and we appreciate the service. I would note
My pleasure.
well, thank you. I would note for the Planning Commission's benefit, we will have a number of vacancies on numerous boards and commissions. So as you interact with people in your neighborhood, your coworkers, your family and friends, if you know people who are passionate, want to give back to the community and make improvements to the Saline area, please encourage them to apply. We will have vacancies on Historic District, Parks, Environmental, Planning, DEI, and I would note that city residency is required for most of our boards, but not for arts and culture, DEI, environmental, or our economic development boards. So please keep that in mind. Thank you.
And then, sorry, just to go off so we're not likely going to have a December meeting, especially because you just approved it, so I have no business for you. Planner Auerbach and I are meeting with 4 potential applicants, so we've met with 2 already, one being the library, who's looking to do a site plan, the other being the former UAW hall that's being proposed to become a dentist's office, Condat, which is on South Industrial, that's looking to build a small accessory structure, and then Lee Bear, which is coming back with a somewhat scaled back version of what you all saw for them 3 years ago. So very exciting. We have 4 site plans, real applicants, not marijuana. Go team.
Do we have an idea when Lee Bear will be submitting?
I would guess they're all probably going to submit either in middle of December or the beginning of January.
Very good. I think from our conversation with Lee Bear in June, right before I departed for Europe, they had indicated that they'd like to be operational by the end of 2024.
I would see no issue with that, especially given the scope and the fact that this body has already reviewed more or less what they're proposing. It's actually a smaller version. They're making a minor revision to what they had originally proposed a handful of years ago.
Very good.
Chair, would I quit that? Yes. What about our site plan review process? Will that be one of the things coming to us?
So in the sense of staff looking at site plan compliance, yes, that's on my schedule for 2024 with a code officer. That's something that we'll be starting in fiscal year 2020, this fiscal year, next year, essentially, if that makes sense. So 2024, but in the spring or winter if I can. I'm going to try to tie it in with some more business visits.
Okay. And then, just out of curiosity, and I don't know if you know it, has the closing happened with the 207 Monroe property?
No.
I don't believe it has yet.
No, it has not. I don't think it's been scheduled yet.
Thank you.
Seeing that there are no absences, is there a motion on the table to adjourn at 7:25?
Let me make that motion.
I think you deserve it. And I will second that. Mr. Beardsley, thank you for your service for all these years. Is there any additional discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much.